That's just a banner evening. We can't get Paul to work, and I can't count. Welcome to Obey the Puck. Paul's kind of with us, I'm sure he's in the twilight zone of frozen video, and we have special guests because that's why he's having video problems. The time we get a special guest on Obey the Puck, which rarely happens, that's when video doesn't work. I'm Dan Colachico. He's Paul Baker. Kelly Levy's on assignment for now. And we have special guests from hockeydocs.com. We'll be talking to them about their website, different documentaries, different hockey stories. Aaron and Angela Bell, thank you for joining us.
Hello.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us. We're excited.
Yeah, I was before the show, I was kind of jealous because Angela pointed to the light and it turned on. I was like, man, I got to get up. I got to hit the button. I felt like I was analog still. But thank you very much for joining us. I really appreciate taking out the time. Again, we don't get interviews on here very much. So whenever we get like-minded hockey people, it's like, all right, let's go.
Yeah, dude, we're excited.
6 hours. Yes, here we go. Story time.
So I guess we'll start off easy because I've heard of you guys in passing. I've seen all the trailers. Truth be told, I have not seen a full documentary yet, but I went to your website and I will now. And one I'm going to ask about in a second, which I'm very much looking forward to. But when did you guys first start? Because it looks fantastic. The documentaries look like you could first run them on a theater, put it on a TV. This is no BS, folks. These are real documentaries.
Well, thank you very much. We definitely, the quality thing is something that we're always trying to make sure that it's as high a quality as we can on a super low budget. You're looking at our entire production team right here in this window. As Paul knows, we've got a couple of junior helpers that we brought.
You had some roadies when you came to
We had some roadies, but typically, it's the two of us. So we started with, we live in Belleville, Ontario, Canada. And we started with a film about the Crawford family. So many, I'm sure your listeners and viewers know Mark Crawford, who's assistant coach with the Chicago Blackhawks right now. Well, his family is from Belleville. And Mark's father, Floyd, was the captain of the Belleville McFarland's team that won the World Hockey Championship for Canada back in the 50s. And so Angela and I got to know their family a little bit and asked, hey, would you guys be interested in us making a film about Floyd and Pauline and their 9 kids, 3 of which played in the National Hockey League? And, what a remarkable story for our community. We did it. We did a full-length feature, and we showed it at our local theater, and a distributor picked it up to get it out in Canada and the USA. And ever since then, we've been like, oh, this is a lot of fun. How can we do more of this? You may or may not know, making documentaries isn't super expensive, but it's really difficult to raise money to do it. So we've kind of...
we eat a lot of craft dinner.
Yes. And we turn our travel into vacation when we can as well.
Yes.
Double dip that way.
Absolutely. All right. So here's where I'm curious, and this is probably a dumb question since both from Canada. Who was the hockey fan, or were you both hockey fans and then you found each other?
I would say we were both hockey fans and then found each other. I grew up watching hockey because my cousin played hockey in the NHL, so that was a big deal for us to watch him play. And then
go ahead, tell him who.
It was Rick Mahar, and he ended his career as captain of the St. Louis Blues. So. Yes. We're all very proud of him. So, and then St. Louis just won, so that was a big deal as well.
Hey, show's over.
Sorry.
Stop
and
it.
then I have 2 boys that are 13 and 14. So as soon as they were able to walk, I put them on skates and they started playing. So they're my favorite athletes right now. So.
There you go.
Yeah. I kind of, I grew up here in Belleville as a Belleville Bulls fan and remember thinking, boy, wouldn't it be cool to work in hockey? I was never good enough to play certainly not at that high a level. And so about 22 years ago, I started working with the Ontario Hockey League and the Canadian Hockey League, and doing the special events and publications and stuff like that. And ultimately did a lot of photography and story writing, wrote some books about hockey, that type of thing. And so we kind of, once we got together and we started talking more about this, we thought, well, the writing and photography, when we can kind of bring that together into video, into film, is really, really something that we latched onto and really have a lot of fun with.
Nice. So let's talk about, I guess, how you guys came to us. So you're doing a bunch of series. We'll touch on a lot of them, if not all of them. But you guys got in touch with me over the summer for a series you're doing called The Collectors.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about The Collectors and then how you ended up in Rhode Island or Southeastern Massachusetts?
Well, you tell them a little bit about The Collectors.
This is all making sense now because I forgot about that detail before.
Yeah, this wasn't just a random connection.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Well, when we started the idea of Hockey Docs, we came up with this idea of doing something on collectors. We thought, well, how neat would that be to kind of go to somebody who has this massive collection of hockey stuff, right? But it wasn't just, we've learned a lot about this as we've been going, and it's been very interesting for the two of us to go through this. And a lot of it is people have a collection for game used stuff, which is really intriguing. It's not just something you can go out and just buy. Like anybody can go buy a puck or anybody can go buy a jersey, but these are game worn stuff. It means something. It's photo matched, or it's a puck that's signed, or, you know, and it really means a lot to that person. And it's really cool to hear the stories behind every article that they have.
Yeah, and we started with a guy in Toronto named Mark Farah, who had a terrific collection of stuff. We left there thinking, how much was this worth? We couldn't even put a price on it. It was just an incredible amount of memorabilia, history, that kind of thing. And so we've had some pretty good fun with this. And our thought was, hey, what if we could find a collector from each of the original 6 teams to start with and do the series that way. And so we started with Mark. And then we went down to Detroit and we met a gentleman down there named Felix Gatt, who was best friends with Gordie Howe for the last 25 years of Gordie Howe's life. And so we got a chance to go down and spend some time with him, and in this basement of his that is just a shrine to hockey, particularly the Red Wings, and some of the things that he had in his basement were incredible. And we made our way to Chicago and did some cool stuff there. And then, of course, we needed a Boston Bruin fan. We needed somebody that could help us tell a little bit of the story about Boston.
So Q Paul.
Q Paul, yeah. So we did some research online. We're Googling all kinds of stuff. We actually came across a news story from the NHL Finals, excuse me, and they were looking for the biggest Bruins fan. And when we saw that, we thought, oh, this is cool. And that wall of pucks was just like, oh, this is incredible. Yeah, a lot of fun. And we've had a lot of fun with this series. And of course, we've had a lot of collectors reach out to us and say, hey, we've got some amazing stuff here. And so we've got a few more in the can. Paul's is coming out this week, so very timely.
Hey,
and then and then we've got lots more on the go. So we've had a lot of fun with that so far.
Yeah, so it's not just about collectors. We do have a couple more series. One is Behind the Bench, so talking to some former players that have then gone into coaching. Mm-hmm. And we have one called Art of the Mask, so that's all about the painters of the goalie masks. Yeah, so pretty cool stuff.
That is one I'm very much looking forward to, because like I said, as soon as Paul was like, okay, they're good for tonight, I'm like, all right, right to the website, and I looked at all the trailers and watched it. I was like, oh, the mask thing. Oh, I can't wait for that, because with big hockey fans, we all know the time. I mean, we all know this documentary is going to really let us know, but we all know that is something from the mid 70s to now has been a life of its own with what people are airbrush or paint onto their mask. And I don't think people outside of the sport realize what artwork goes on the mask. I mean, I'm particularly, fond of the Ghostbusters stuff for Cam Talbot, but we'll get into that another day. I'm really looking forward to that. But the access you guys get is insane. And that's with people who are still working on NHL teams or in the NHL. How hard is it to get access to, and with rightfully so, the NHL protects their assets. I get it.
Sure.
But how hard is it to get a hold of these all-stars, legends, coaching personalities from the NHL alone, let alone everybody else?
Sure, yeah, that can definitely be challenging, and we've got lots of connections. The time I've spent with the Canadian Hockey League has helped a lot. We did a couple of years ago, we did the Memorial Cup, 100th anniversary of the Memorial Cup. We did a film for the Canadian Hockey League, and a lot of that you see on the channel under the Memorial Cup Memories. And so that kind of gave us an easy way in to talk to a lot of people, to tell them about that. And then what we do is we just show them what we're working on. And typically we find, if they've got the time, and we kind of know the way to approach the PR managers or the agents and people like that, and just say, hey, this is what we're working on, and we'd love for you to be part of it. And if you are interested, we won't take a lot of time, and we're respectful of their time. And it's a bit tricky sometimes. We've had some no's for sure. But it's when we get somebody that we're really excited to talk to, it really means a lot. And the interesting thing with that is sometimes it's not even the biggest stars. We've come across some stories that have just really kind of grabbed a hold of us that we're like, wow, that was just an incredible story. One that when we were talking about the Memorial Cup thing, the Oshawa Generals 1990, they won, and Eric Lindros was the big star of that team, and that was really pretty cool opportunity to talk to them. But he wasn't even the guy that ended up scoring the winning goal, right?
Yeah, that was Billy Armstrong, and he's one of my most favorite interviews. He was so great, and he was just like, oh, the crowd was going crazy and they were cheering. Ah! And I thought I got the assist on the winning goal. And he's like, I was so excited. And then he's like, I actually scored the winning goal. So it was a really cool story. And of course, Eric Lindros was like, no offense, Billy, none of us had wrote you down to get that goal whatsoever. So it was kind of a neat story that way. And but Billy was a character. He was lots of fun.
And then went on to win the Stanley Cup last year. I know Paul was excited about that. So, but no, just what I think it's just being respectful, showing them the what we're working on, and hopefully if they want to be part of it, then we've had the good fortune to be able to speak to quite a few people that way.
So in your travels, in your discussions with people, you've probably come across so many people. Are there any stories or persons that just stand out as this was just my favorite story or my favorite person that I got to meet?
Well, there was this guy near Boston that had a whole big collection of pucks. No,
you don't need to kiss my rear end here.
That was definitely right in there. With the Memorial Cup one, we definitely met a few people along the way that we were pretty excited to talk to. I would say one of the coolest experiences that we've had so far was right in the very first film. And with Mark Crawford, and I mentioned earlier that, we live in the same hometown, and we know his brother. I knew his brother a little bit, but I'd actually never met Mark Crawford. We reached out to him. He was coaching the ZSC Lions in Zurich, Switzerland at the time. And we were on a pretty tight deadline. We couldn't wait for him to come home, so we had to go to Zurich if we were going to get him.
It was rough.
Yeah, that was fun. Now, we went to Zurich for 3 days, so it wasn't like a big vacation. It was pretty whirlwind. But when we made contact with him, he said, absolutely, I would love to do this. If you're willing to come here, I'll come pick you up at the airport if you like. And we're like, it's okay. We'll figure out how to get to the hotel from there. But just one of those people that really just could not do enough for us. Lent us his car so we could drive to Davos and watch the game up there. We got to know his wife when we got back home here, and when he came back and was coaching with the Ottawa Senators, and just a really down-to-earth guy. And if you've only ever seen the highlight clips of Mark Crawford, you probably think that he certainly has a fiery personality, and he came by that honestly from both his mom and his dad. But a guy that just really welcomed us in and gave us more than we could have ever asked.
He's got a heart of gold, and I tell you, it gave me a whole new respect for fans when you're over in Switzerland, because they like cheer through the whole entire game. Like, it's not just when you score, they're just going nonstop, and they got ginormous flags that they're swinging around. They got drums and megaphones, and it's just nonstop. Like, you go out with a headache, but it was so much fun. So much fun.
Was there anybody, you may not be able to answer this question, totally understand, because you guys are running a business that is currently running. So is there anybody that was particularly more, I'll ask it like this, more difficult than you expected?
Well, we did have kind of an interesting interview with Eric Lindros, who growing up was certainly one of my favorite players.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, I loved the Flyers. Didn't like him a lot as a general when he was beaten up on the Belleville Bulls here, but could absolutely appreciate. For me, he was the first junior superstar that I ever saw. And so we were both pretty excited to meet Eric. And it took a little bit of work. It took a lot of work. He was difficult to nail down. He immediately said he wanted to do it. It was just a matter of time and when could we do it. So we had a couple of interviews lined up at a downtown Toronto hotel, and Eric is the last one of the day, and we're pretty excited. Brian Bellows actually came in that day as well. He was coming from Minnesota, but we got a chance to chat with him. That was really cool. And so we get to this hotel, and it's a pretty fancy downtown hotel. And so Angela and I, we're from Belleville. We're pretty, simple. We're not really super high fancy folks. And so first thing is we drive into the valet parking ourselves. So the valet guy comes running out like, what are you doing, right? You can't, this isn't South Park. This isn't Belleville. You need to give me the car so I can park it. So we're like, all right. So we go upstairs and we get to the concierge for the meeting room that we'd booked. And he said, no problem. Give me your parking ticket and I'll validate it and you'll be good to go. I'm like, okay, well, that'll save us probably $30 or whatever. So sure enough, we're in there. We get these good interviews going. Eric Lindros comes in, and we're
super exciting.
Yeah, we're both pretty. He's a big man. His hands just sort of envelop your.
I shook his hand, and my hand like disappeared.
Just gone. Right?
I'm like, oh, you're huge.
So he's very gracious with his time. We had this great interview with him. It was really, really something special. We really enjoyed that. Then he gets up to go, and he said, "So what do I do about parking?" So we kind of looked at each other, and I'm like, I don't know. So I go out to find the concierge guy and think, oh, I know. He'll just stamp his ticket. He's good to go, and off you go. The concierge guy's not there. So I'm like, well, I'm not exactly sure what to do. And he's kind of waiting for an answer. And as you can probably attest to, a lot of hockey players from that era can attest to that, when you're looking down the eyes of Eric Lindros and not sure you're giving him the answer he wants to hear, it can be a little intimidating. So I said, well, listen, just pay the parking and then send me your receipt and I'll make sure that you get compensated. Okay, off he goes to his Lamborghini or whatever the heck he was driving. I don't know, Land Rover or something. So sure enough, I get a text from him a little while later saying, here's my parking receipt. So I e-transferred Eric Lindros $30. Canadian from my Scotiabank account, and I have this great little email receipt saying Eric Lindros accepted your transfer of $30. We had a pretty good time with that. Yeah. 2 years later, I'm still kind of showing people that once in a while just to say, hey.
It's a piece of memorabilia.
We don't really ask for autographs or pictures or things. That was one of those where we're like, that's pretty fun.
Don't do that. Don't do that with Eric.
Yeah, don't tell him. This is just between us, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, it was fun. Very gracious with his time, and we were excited about that. But that was kind of a funny story.
He did an interview with local radio. I still listen to up in MMR. I do a website for him, President Steve, and when he was getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, and it was kind of like all right, he's not so bad, because it did not end well between him, the city of Philadelphia, Bobby Clark, the team. It was bad, and it was kind of a hot and cold thing, because a lot of people still remember in the days when he worked here, when he played for them.
He worked.
He worked. It's a work, all right. That he wasn't very gracious with his time.
Yeah.
And a lot of people still cursed the name Eric Lindros. And then when he got inducted into the, his name's up in the banners for the Flyers Hall of Fame and the Hockey Hall of Fame, all that stuff, it was kind of like it's fine. It's all right. But I'm still caught and cold because, as you guys know, and I don't know how many people listening do know, the absolute cluster F of that draft day and getting the team and trading away all those assets for that. And all of that, one of them being Kerry Huffman, my friend. I just, not that he said anything mean, I just don't talk to him very much anymore. All of that to come away with zero cups. Zero.
Yeah, he was so good, but he just left you wanting more, didn't he?
Yeah, and it kind of extends to how everybody, I mean, they're down 2-1 against the Panthers right now. That's why I turned it off, because I'm trying to talk to you guys. But it all comes to the last 40 years and, 30 some odd that I've been alive. I'm not going to give that away. Where we were so close, and then you hit that Red Wings team.
Yeah. And
it's over before it begins. And, it's kind of been off and on with Flyers fans this offseason with the Kate Smith stuff, and everybody saying she's been a good luck charm. I'm like, since when? And all that good stuff. But I always remember Eric Lindros, a little bit of bitterness, like, where's my I'll take it over before I expound.
Yeah, too late. After series, you got to see some incredible man caves. Looking at some of those things that the guys from the other cities have, it made me jealous. Was there anything that you saw that just made you think, oh man, I wish I had that? Or that's the most awesome piece I've ever seen?
Over and over and over.
All of it, yeah.
Yeah. So now after Dan's lead in here, I'm a little afraid to admit this, but growing up, I was also a pretty big Red Wings fan. Steve Yzerman in particular. I mean, he was he was the guy. When I was growing up, he really was the guy that I admired the most or followed the most. And when we went to visit Felix in Detroit, some of the Steve Yzerman stuff that he had. So let me put this in. He had this display case, and on the top shelf was a pair of game-worn, autographed skates, previously owned by Bobby Orr. You probably heard of him.
Okay. On
the next shelf, the same thing with the 99 Wayne Gretzky from the Edmonton Oilers Stanley Cup years, game-used skates. And then on the bottom shelf, Mario Lemieux. So his collection was so deep, the game-used Mario Lemieux skates were on the bottom shelf. He kind of had to find room for them, type of thing. Some of the stuff there, game-used sticks, the history, like just to sort of see some of that stuff. Honestly, it was a little overwhelming, especially in Toronto and Detroit. With some of those, we were just like, I don't know what to say. Like, you can only say, wow, that's amazing, so many times before they go, yeah, okay, we get it, right? But I would say even more impressive than that, though, was just the stories, like talking to Felix, and he was talking about, Gordy and when Gordy's wife got ill, and then when Gordy got ill and Felix's wife got ill, and they were a crew together, the four of them. And then Colleen Howe passed away, and Felix and his wife really took Gordy in, believe it or not, right? Like Gordie Howe needs to be taken in, but he spent a lot of time with them. He'd come over for apple pie at night, and the kids would go crazy when he'd come around. He said he'd go out in the driveway and play hockey with them. And
all the kids called him Uncle Gordie. Like, they see him come down the street and they just run outside of the house and want to play. And he would play with them outside. Like, how cool is that?
And no big deal, just Gordie Howe in the driveway playing hockey.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, no kidding. And he must have had, I don't know, 500 autographed things by Gordie Howe in his basement. Honestly, with some of that stuff, we were obviously very impressed by it. But the story behind him and Gordie in Toronto, the story with Mark Farah, and for him it was, growing up, going to Maple Leaf Gardens with his dad was the thing that he most cherished in his childhood. And all of this stuff that he has around him now kind of helps remind him of that, and helps remind his friends and the people that he sort of shares that experience with. And I think that's For us, that's been the most interesting part. Because you can only show so many really great jerseys and sticks and pucks and things before people go, okay, I get it. There's a lot up there. But, you know, like Paul, when we talked to you about your collection, you know, hearing the stories about being in Providence and being there when they won, that's the kind of stuff to me that really came through in this series, that it's not about the stuff, it's about the people, right? And when they hear that story, they say, hey, I never got to be Gordie Howe's friend, but you know what? I can picture that. And I definitely went to hockey games with my dad when I was a kid. And that really just kind of brought back a lot of that type of memory.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Because actually, just last night, the Providence Bruins had their Meet the Players party for the season ticket holders. And one of the players, Jack Studnicka, who was one of their big prospects, we actually met him over the summer at a Bruins event in Springfield. We were actually on our way to Albany. Bruins had a thing. Hey, let's stop in Springfield, get his autograph for the wall. You know, that was a future. And bumped into him last night, and my wife was in line in front of me, and she said, hey, nice to see you again. We saw you in Springfield over the summer. And he was like, yes, you are the guys with the pucks. I was like, oh, my God. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's fun, right? And it's, I think that's the great thing about it.
It came across in, it came across in my video that it was the connections.
That's okay. Go ahead. Guys, continue what you were saying when he finishes.
Yeah, I think it's just that connection, right? And I've had a good fortune in my career to be able to go and photograph a lot of big events, the Memorial Cup and the World Juniors and things like that. And for me, it's always that story. Why do people respond to this game the way they do? That's in every story that we do on Hockey Docs. That's part of it, right? It's why, whether it's a player or a fan or, you know, people that are there. And Paul, you said it in the trailer for the collectors really well. We can't all play in the National Hockey League. We can't all be that good just by the nature of it. But you know what? We can get pretty close to it with some of these artifacts, these souvenirs, things that, you know, that we hold on to.
So I have a question about an upcoming documentary, and I'm just going off your website. So if I'm seeing something wrong,
pressure's on.
Pressure's on. My Hockey Life. What is that one going to be all about?
Yeah. So My Hockey Life is we're just sort of getting that sort of fleshed out. But the idea is there's so many people out there that work in this great game that we've never even heard of before, for the most part. So the first episode we filmed with a guy named Steve Babineau, who for the last 4 decades or so has been the Boston Bruins photographer. Shot the Boston Red Sox, the Celtics, shoots a lot of Florida Panthers games. Is tonight's game in Florida or Philly?
It's in Florida.
Oh, Babs might be there filming that.
Great.
This guy has an incredible history in the game, and we actually shared a little piece of it last week when he actually took Wayne Gretzky's rookie card photo. But he also took Mario Lemieux's and just thousands of other photos along the way. And
just another day.
And you know, the Bruins honored him there. He's got a beautiful book on the Bruins and that kind of thing. And you know, that type of thing just those are the types of stories that we're really excited about. And Dan, I don't want to alarm you, but there might be somebody sneaking up behind you.
She was here.
Yeah, I bet a lot of the pictures you saw in my cave were taken by Steve Babineau.
Yeah,
he's an institution.
Oh,
he's a great guy too, and he just welcomed us in and talked he's a talker. So we got lots of great stuff out of him, and he gave us a whole tour and showed us just this amazing collection of photos, which was great.
So have you done anything that doesn't involve hockey? I mean, you're talking about how great everybody you've talked to is, and that's the reputation of hockey people, that they're so down to earth and so giving. Have you done anything with other sports?
Not really other sports. We've done a couple of other little projects. We did one called Vinyl Revolution, where we were talking a little bit about records making a comeback and what the heck, why would people buy analog records in the day of digital? And that was a pretty fun little project to put together.
We did do one sport related. We did a short film for our local Doc Fest, and it was called Downforce, or it is called Downforce. And it's about this gentleman named Colby Parks who does this crazy sport of kind of laying on a bigger size skateboard and flying down hills. So
street luge, it's called.
Yeah. So it's crazy.
I have seen street luge.
Yeah. He travels all over the place. And so we had the privilege of talking to him and sitting down and finding out why and what makes him crazy enough to do a sport like that. So that was pretty fun. So we got some great footage from that. And he travels everywhere. Like they'll go over to Europe and like Italy and places like that where there's massive hills. I'd be scared to walk down them, let alone strap myself on a board and fly down them. But anyway,
I guess the last question I can ask is there anything not listed on the website that you can reveal that's coming out after the ones you've listed?
Yeah, not really. We're some of those even are a little bit, we're hoping we can get to that part. We're actually working on a few different things that we think are going to be really exciting. The goalie mask thing we're really excited about that one. We just finished editing one that was a guy in nearby, lives fairly close to us. And he painted, I don't know if you remember Andrew Raycroft when he played for the Maple Leafs. He had this mask done with Maple Leaf Gardens on it, and Wendell Clark and Johnny Bauer, and just this beautiful piece of artwork. And so we got that. We also actually got Andrew to talk a little bit about it, and they had the mask right here in Belleville. His parents had it, so we were able to get some really cool shots of that. So that's going to be that goalie mask one. We're super excited about that. I think that's going to be a really really cool thing. We're heading to Montreal shortly to film some new episodes for that. And I mean those. We've got an ambitious sort of bunch of stuff that we're trying to attack with Hockey Docs. For us, it's a huge labor of love, like you guys do with these shows and things like that. We really think there's some great stories out there that we want to tell, and we know it's going to take some time to kind of build some momentum. But we're really proud of what we've done so far, and we're looking forward to the future of it for sure.
I would like to see something on some women in hockey. Myself being
beat me to my last comment.
Well, I've got the connection. Ever I can. I work for the Boston Pride, so
get that going. Because I was about to say,
hook you up with some people who work for the team.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
Say I was marathon in the NWHL this weekend live, and one of the things that occurred to me, which I did not. Because I've had them playing when they're on, because it's on Twitch. I'm a Twitch guy, so I'm always watching Twitch. The NWHL's playing. Put them on. The Buffalo, Connecticut game. Not only were these, and forgive me, I forgot the name of the play-by-play and the color commentator, male, female. I forget. I'm so sorry. I knew I'd forget. But not only were they calling the game, and not only was it one of the best broadcasts that the NWHL has put on this season, it just. They were answering Twitch questions at the same time. So not only casting this game, they are reading the scroll of this chat because I know that because they answered one of my comments.
Wow.
You're insane. I can't even. I sit here in Twitch hockey and I'll comment the entire time, and I'm like, I don't know how you're doing that. But and I'm not a professional. I'm glad you said this. Yeah. It is a good time right now. Just throwing it out there. I know you guys are busy with the NWHL and that big I cannot talk today now. That's big investments they got that guaranteed the league would be stronger for a little while. Yeah. And the whole, boycott that's going on at the same time. I really believe I've watched that product. It is a good product.
Yeah.
I believe they get just a little bit more attention. They'll be okay. And I really wanted to see, because I like watching that like I like watching any hockey. That's just my personal opinion, so I'm glad you said that. I've really there's some great women playing to see. It was like whatever your feelings of Ghostbusters 2016 is.
Always comes back to Ghostbusters.
Huh? What'd you say?
I said it always comes back to Ghostbusters, man.
Well, there's a point I'm getting to, man.
Twice, one show.
Twice, yeah. Oh, you're lucky it wasn't like 6 or 7. It's bad sometimes. It's either that or Genesis, trust me. So I wasn't aware of these things. And when that movie came out, whether you liked it or hated it, what Kelly saw, what I saw, were little girls or ladies in general dressing up as a cosplay that they couldn't have done before because just the dudes had it.
Yeah.
Now you got these little girls going to these rinks in numbers that they've never seen before, practicing, interacting with the players, wanting to become players. That is changing the sport.
Yeah.
Period. Whether the NWHL is around for another 20 years or not, I would love it to be. That's not what's on the docket. But what's on the docket is there are women that are and little girls that are seeing it now that would have not paid attention before. And that is, in my opinion, getting older, the big focus is that next generation going, oh, now they're going to play. They see something they want, not just some dude playing hockey.
Yeah.
100%. And hey, whether they end up growing up playing hockey or doing whatever it is they want to do, that's going to have that influence on them, isn't it? Like that's going to be the kind of thing that pushes them to say, hey,
Absolutely.
You follow your dream, you do what you want. What's right for you?
That's right. Whether it's sports, science, or what have you. Absolutely.
I was going to throw in. The analogy I should have used since we're doing sports was professional wrestling, because in the late 90s, pardon the expression, it was all about boobs and looking good. And we have gone miles away from that in independent and on TV where they're actual wrestlers. So girls that would have ignored it are now like, oh, I can do that too. And I can tell you, working in the indies scene, working for the Primetime Pro Wrestling in DC, where it is a mixture. It's not just the same Southern dudes you see on all the shows. Yeah. It is LGBTQ, ladies, men, wrestling each other, wrestling together. It's changing. So the more exposure, the better. And so you guys, I'm segueing here because I'm a professional. You guys putting eyes on the product at your level, because you do, this is homegrown. You do this on your own. You have very little outside help, just your little junior helpers that you mentioned earlier. Yeah. But this is homegrown. And with that being said, it gets more eyes on the product. You guys take care of this yourself. You have your own website. You have subscription services. Yeah. How would tell the listeners how one would watch all of your amazing looking documentaries, quite frankly?
Well, thank you. It's definitely a work in progress, and we're trying to build the inventory, so to speak. But if you go to hockeydocs.com, we have a subscription, and it's $5.99 a month, and you can watch whatever's there, as much stuff as we can create. Our goal is to get one new piece out every week. Sometimes we hit it, sometimes we don't, but that's what we're trying to do. They're typically in that kind of 15-minute range, 15 to 20 minutes. So they're not full length. When you watch them together as a series, they are. And right now we've got it set up where you can go and watch free for 7 days. So you got to sign up. But if you sign up and decide, this isn't for me, or I just binge watched everything I could in 3 days and now I don't want to pay for it, that's okay. You can do that. Just tell people that you liked it, and maybe that'll help. But yeah, you can watch free for 7 days. Make sure it's for you if it is. And then the one thing that we're doing right now to kind of help us get the thing started up, I almost said kick-started, but I didn't mean it as a Kickstarter, is we're allowing the first 100 people that want this to sign up for a lifetime membership for $99. So for $99, you'll be able to stay on Hockey Docs for as long as we can stay on Hockey Docs. And we've sold a few of those so far, and we're hoping over the next month or so, maybe leading up to Christmas even, we can get those out the door, and then that kind of helps give us a bit of revenue to get more of these things made.
Well, as I said about the NWHL, which I subscribed this weekend, and I put my money where my mouth is. Literally, as you spoke, I put my money where my mouth is again, and I just subscribed to your website.
Oh, thank you. Excellent.
I'm not even kidding.
I just got right there. I just got it.
Hey, if they can make me look good, these are quality broadcasts here.
Listen, if I can make you look as good as I do and they make you look better, that's amazing.
Paul was terrific. Great story. Loved it. Loved meeting you and your wife. It was definitely salt of the earth of what we're trying to do with the Collectors series, for sure.
Is there anything that Paul and I missed that you'd like to get out while the show's still rolling right now? Question-wise, information-wise, anything like that? Try to be,
Oh, I think we got everything covered.
Yeah, I think it's just, hey, if you're a hockey fan, if you enjoy the game, we're not really talking necessarily about what's happening today in the game. That's really covered well on television, online, and everywhere else. But what we look for are those kind of special stories that happen behind the scenes sometimes, or, maybe a game or a team that we kind of forgot about. And the Memorial Cup Series was a good one there. We've got some others that we've got kind of lined up that we were really excited to talk about. And it's just, we know that there's a lot of competition out there for your time and your energy and your money and your attention. And, if you love hockey as much as we do, as much as you do, then maybe you might find something on there that appeals to you as well.
We put a lot of our heart and soul into this, and it's stories that you don't know, right? Yeah. So we want to entertain you that way.
Absolutely. You could tell that there's a lot of, you can tell just on the front page advertising to subscribe that there's a lot of real passion and love for it. And that's why you should all subscribe. So with that being said, Aaron, where can people follow you on any social media platform?
Sure. If you look for Hockey Docs on Twitter or Instagram, Facebook, you'll find us there. And that's kind of our, especially for that stuff. I'm also on Twitter as Aaron Bell. I'm not very good at that part. Angela handles the social media end of it for us to make sure that
not your own.
We don't do things like that. But yeah, if you look for Hockey Docs either way,
you'll find us. I think
yeah, I was going to say, are you, Angela, you got your own social? Because I wasn't trying to, I was going to do one at a time.
I do. Aaron has his own. I have my own too. So yeah, I'm on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm even on Snapchat just because of my children. So
what's the handle?
What on Twitter?
On Twitter at least.
Yeah, it's Angela_J_Bell.
She remembered hers, Aaron.
Yeah. I think he's just like Aaron_Bell or something like that.
I was in on Twitter pretty early. I got my 10-year friend-iversary Twitter thing not very long ago. So
it's a geezer.
Yeah.
It should be geezer_Bell.
I think I was an OG is what I was thinking was the proper term, but
I'm old. I don't know what you just said. I was August 2009, and I've said a lot of things, but really not a lot. Well, I would like to thank you guys for taking the time out again and joining us. I definitely, like I said, I just subscribed. Definitely going to be using the site. And for all the people that are listening, that I'm going to leave that unedited, you should go to the Hockey Docs. It's at hockeydocs.com. Subscribe now. You get 7 free days that they just said. Please subscribe and view. Aaron and Angela, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan, Paul. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Anytime. It was our pleasure.
So now that we're done with that great interview, bring Kelly on real quick. Last night got a little interesting at the Capitals game, Kelly, did it not?
I was listening on the radio, so it was kind of, there was a little bit of chippiness. Nothing too bad. I think it was just kind of hits against the glass and, talking afterwards kind of thing. But then everything seemed to break loose at the very end of the second period. I heard the glass. I heard John Walton talk about a huge hit that happened behind the net, and then another hit behind the net. And that second hit was kind of the start of the major scrum, which during that happening, Chandler Stevenson scored the third goal for the Caps, and at that point making the score 3-0 Capitals. Stevenson is like allergic to goals, so that's pretty big deal. I think it's only his second one of the year. But it sounded really interesting. I didn't see it until I got home, after the game was over. I don't know. It's just, it looked like clean hit that people took offense at, and then there was hitting and punching and spitting, apparently.
Yes, well, that brought me to my next point, which Paul's going to get involved with. So, yeah, the hit was clean. It was a clean hit. That's it. End of discussion. Just like the game before when Ovi did the hit and people were like, he left his feet. No, he hit, and then it's clean hit. Stop talking. They're looking into disciplining Hathaway for the spit.
Mm-hmm.
So the NHL is going to look into suspending him. And the first person I thought of, Paul, was Brad Marchand, who can sexually assault people's faces and get his pee-pee slapped. But Hathaway is going to spit at a guy who's being a jackass. And let's face it, Hathaway was in the right. It should have punched him again on the way down, and he got away with it. So he spit on him. I don't want to beat that horse, but I just thought I would bring this up real quick. I think it's funny that Hathaway is going to see suspension time probably for spitting on a guy who was not in the right on that situation. And Brad Marchand, because he is Brad Marchand, can get away with it. Am I out of my league saying that, Paul Baker?
Well,
fan.
Brad Marchand was licking people out of love, and that was a spit of hate.
It's an interesting distinction, but okay. Continue.
You can spit out of love.
I guess you could. I don't know.
See,
yeah, I mean, I didn't try to defend Marchand when he was licking people either. So, I mean, I may be the wrong person to ask about this. But, yeah, I mean, any exchange of bodily fluids during a hockey game is really inappropriate. As someone who has been spit on over the years, working in human services, punch me in the face 100 times before you spit on me.
Yeah.
It's demeaning, it's vulgar, it's dirty, you know? Punch me in the nose, man. Please, don't spit at me. Please. Yeah, but you know what? And they had told Marchand, you do it again, you're going to get in trouble. We're not putting up with this anymore. So I don't know if the comparison is apples to apples here, but yeah, neither one's right. Marchand wasn't right. Hathaway's not right.
How can you, in public, I looked it up, a $4 billion organization, be that blatant with well, if you do it again, you're in trouble too. You're in trouble because he's a nobody versus Brad Marchand, who frankly is a star in the league and a Stanley Cup champion. That is the problem we've arrived to before, and here we are again. It's Bush League. It's stupid. Grow the frig up, is my point.
Sure. I mean, at some point, though, we get into this and with hits and with discipline of moving. So what was okay, and this is what Twitter as a whole doesn't seem to get. You can't do now what you did. You can't do now what you did 10 years ago. You can't do now what you did 5 years ago. Times are changing. I mean, that might be a bad comparison there, but yeah, just because he got away, that's what you do with your kids. Well, they did it. Oh, so what? I don't care if they did it. I'm talking to you right now.
We literally talked about it off air, wrestling related, to a line Jim Cornette just threw out on NWA Power, and I told you guys the line where perhaps 20 years ago people would have turned around, 30 years ago, and now it's like, dude, you can't say that. Like, you absolutely cannot say the words you just said in that order, in that implication. Kelly, now that you've heard he's going to face discipline, how do you feel about it? And I'm starting to side with you. Like, you watch me watch the Flyers, and we watch Caps because it's a fun team to watch. And every single period, there is a call by the officials that at this point, again, you're a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Figure it the F out. Stop it. There's no accountability. All these major leagues, but this is a hockey podcast. There's no accountability, and here we are again with, well, whataboutism. And now Hathaway's probably going to sit. And Hathaway is a spark I think the Caps was looking for now that Wilson's a goal scorer.
Yeah, I agree with you, Paul. Spitting on someone is just disgusting and horrible. There was a question about whether or not it could have or should have been a match penalty. Because according to the rules as written, from what I've seen, match penalties are specifically for intent to injure, whether or not someone was actually injured or the intent was to physically harm someone. I think spitting is it sounds so ridiculous to have a conversation about this, but spitting's in the rule book as a game misconduct. So kind of at the referee's discretion, they could throw someone out for being a jerk and spitting on someone, which they should absolutely do. But I think part of the question was, is the NHL going to look at whether or not it could be a match penalty? And would that come into the fact that, or the length of the suspension that may or may not happen?
Where I work.
Oh. Go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Where I work, spitting can absolutely be an intent to injure because we get guys in there with hepatitis C and stuff, and they'll spit on you to try to get you infected. But that's neither here nor there. That was maybe a bad joke. But Marissa and Jemmy, who writes for the Boston Herald, actually put up a Twitter poll. And when you brought this up, Dan, my mind flashed to that. She put up, which is worse in a hockey context, spitting or licking? Now, she writes for the Boston Herald, so we might have a Boston bias to this. But spitting was judged worse, 61% to 39%.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's not the crux of the issue. Like, the crux of the issue is you're leading by example, and that's not leading by example. It's covering your own ass and nobody else's. You have your bet. You don't. It's not the same thing. That's a terrible example, and it's terrible to do that. No, you're okay, but since you're a nobody, we're going to give you a call on Wednesday.
Well, we've had the same discussion with stars versus regular guys, in as far as head hits or elbows or what have you. We've had the same discussion. You know, plug in Sidney Crosby for Marchand and plug in.
Well, here, I'll bust it, and I'll throw it back to Kelly for her final thoughts after this. It's a conversation Darren and I used to have all the time, where it's like, in the case of Crosby, you sit him. Well, they're not going to sit him because he's the star. Yes, I know, and that's a terrible example to set. If you're all playing the same sport, I don't care about the butts in the seat. I don't care about the tickets. If you were legitimately, if you were legitimately concerned with being non-biased and fair with your discipline, you'd sit Crosby for the same amount of games you'd sit Tom Wilson, Garrett Hathaway, anybody. But don't pretend to be that. Don't be that blatant about it. It's obvious. I understand why they're not, because you don't sit the stars, but then don't pretend to be the other. Just don't treat me like I'm an idiot. I know what you're doing. I can see it. Kelly, your final thoughts on the whole situation.
I don't know.
That's pretty much.
Hathaway, well, I'm sure he'll be suspended. It'll be interesting to see after the game. They were talking to Hathaway, of course. I believe he said himself he shouldn't have done it, and you know, he'll face whatever consequences are. But it sure looked like one side of his lower jaw was really swollen, so all the Caps fans were like, "Ooh, I wonder if he just gave someone the mumps," because that's what it looked like.
Oh no!
It could have been. He could have been swollen because he was in two different fights, because he fought two different people and got sucker punched by the guy he spit on. So it could have been that, but it sure looked like the mumps, based on the footage that we saw. So there's a whole other fun part of that. I expect he'll be suspended.
Well, with that being said, let's get the hell out of here with that. We're going to end on that one. I would like to thank again Aaron and Angela Bell for hockeydocs.com. Please go subscribe now, and you get a free week to check out their great documentaries on hockey. They're not full length, they're a series. So you get 15, 25 minutes of a show. Hockeydocs.com. Sign up 7 days for free. It's $6.99 a month. It's $5.99 Canadian. I don't know that. Is that $6? I don't know. Sure.
No, it's less. It's less for an American.
Oh, there you go. It's $4.99. I just turned that number. The point is, it's cheap. Go to the site. Thank them again. Kelly, where can people follow you?
Folks can follow me at Skid Central.
Mr. Collector Baker, where can people follow you?
And they did a great job making me look good on the hockeydocs.com. I recommend it. I'm at Puckman RI.
I'll be the judge of that, and you can see me judge it at DanLaw83. Obey the Puck is on Twitter at Obey Puck Show, Facebook.com/Obey the Puck for Kelly Baker, Angela and Aaron Bell, and did I say Kelly Baker?
Kelly Baker, I think you did.
For Kelly Levy and Paul Baker, I'm getting the hell out of here. Goodbye.